Hello, Phil.
Hello, Eva.
I met you the year your daughter was born, I found out.
Quite a long time ago.
It was, but you were the person who got me started in the whole industry of disability arts, and I have so much gratitude for your generosity and your faith in me. It means so much to me still.
Great, Eva. And look at where you've come.
Yeah, it's taken a while. I'm getting there.
It's a windy journey.
It is, isn't it?
But you're on it.
Totally. It's a roller coaster. You can't get off once you started.
No, you're always moving forward.
Always, yeah. So tell me about what brought you to do the work you do.
So I guess my work is a combination of the arts and social justice and community building and human development, perhaps. It's a combination of all those things. And I might say jokingly it all began in grade 4 with the school choir. And you know, I'm not literally because I can't even remember it, but just this combination of growing up, being instilled with values of human equality and compassion and social justice from my family, and exploring that myself through my teens and my early adulthood through youth movements and things that I was involved in, and the parallel interest I had in music, a real passion for music since, I was quite young. And what I saw, in my early 30s was the desire to bring those two passions, those two areas together and say, how do I support the making of music and make music in a context that does good for people and addresses social inequalities and social injustices. And so, it's for any one of us, it's the formative process that happens to us as a human being. What values are instilled with you, how do you grow and foster those, what influences you, and kind of what lights you up too. And music and community and social justice really lights me up.
Can I ask why music?
I don't know. I sometimes wonder whether I could have had a life in science just as happily, but music it's a language. In some ways it's like a secret language that gets inside and hooks into each of us as we communicate. It's an individual expression, it's a communal expression, it's a cultural expression. It's a very powerful force that's full of joy and lament and the huge breadth of human emotion. It's compelling, music.
So what is it about disabled artists that fascinates you? What brought you to working with them?
Yeah, I'm not sure if fascinate is the word I would say. Okay. I've reflected on this a lot in my work, and when I began working with people with disability in music making, I had started to make friendships with people in this disability music program that was next door to where I was studying music. And I just really dug them. And we got on well, and I guess it comes from me in something of a real passion and interest in stories that are not the mainstream story. I've always been interested in travel, interested in language, interested in culture, interested in different pathways through life, perhaps than my own, and what my own life might slot me into in a mainstream. And so it's this combination of curiosity and interest in other people's stories, combined with what we just spoke of, this passion for music and self-expression, combined with seeing that there were exclusions and limitations to a very genuine self-expression, social, cultural expression by people with disability through music making specifically for me. So it became my real passion to see how could I contribute to those stories being told. And being heard. And really that's been my passion and my dedication in my work for the last few decades.
Great. Now I met you through Club Wild, and wow, what a party that used to be.
They were big parties.
They were fantastic.
They?
So tell me about how your work with Club Wild influences your work with Melbourne Mass Gospel Choir, which you are also director of, aren't you?
Yeah, so Melbourne Mass Gospel Choir is a community gospel choir, and the values and the principles that I bring to my work are the same in both spaces, making music accessible and enjoyable and achievable to people and to a group of people, and making that joyful, working as hard as we can to make that really good music. I'm not sure that there's a really direct link between Club Wild and the choir specifically, but I really love the choir being open and accessible to people. So there's a little bit of crossover sometimes between, well, what it was Club Wild and now Wild at Heart and the choir. But I think at its core they're the same values, you know, access and participation and contribution and expression in a place. And sometimes the word inclusion is bandied around, but somehow it's more than that. It's more essential than inclusion, about one group saying you can be included with us. It's more about an intrinsic belonging that I really want to foster in the choir, which is similar to Club Wild.
I suppose the connector is you, yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's the common feature.
Yeah, and so your work with Club Wild had a facelift in 2009, I think it was, when it transformed to Wild at Heart. Can you tell me what motivated that and how the work has altered or differed or changed? Has there been any change in the work?
Yes, there has, substantial change. Club Wild was essentially big dance party events that ran numbers of times a year in Melbourne and also regional Victoria. We also ran them at the Sydney Opera House and different places in New South Wales. Yep. And so the principle of those was to enable stages to be accessible and welcoming for people with artists with disability, and to build an audience and a community around those stages. And I think it was highly successful, and they were like a cultural phenomenon. You know, I remember the biggest nights in Melbourne, we would have 550 people at those dance parties.
So cool.
And the team who ran that, a team of people with disabilities who were the kind of programmers and event planners, we looked at it constantly, and as you know, this ran from the late 90s to the mid-teen 20s, so it ran for a long time, 15 years or more. And as the society, the community was kind of opening up to more normalising inclusion of people with disabilities, we saw that what we were doing with Club Wild, we tried hard to make them whole community events, but ultimately they remained very disability-specific events. And there was nothing wrong with that. You know, they're a beautiful, powerful community, just like any gathering of similar, like-minded people can be, whether that's cultural or ethnic or any other basis. But we felt an imperative to move from creating events for people with disability to say, let's train the artists so that those artists can go out into the rest of the community and perform as equals with others. And that was the fundamental shift. We were doing a lot of training with Club Wild, but a lot of our energy was going to the big events. So now, you know, just to take it fast forward 10 years since we stopped doing those dance parties, we're training about 100 artists currently, working with training, recording, releasing. We have a record label. We have people actively going out to open mic nights, busking, being booked for gigs, paid for gigs, playing at festivals, and normalising the participation and involvement of artists with disability on all stages, not just the Club Wild stage.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Wow. So you kind of answered my last question there, because
damn.
I was gonna say, so can you tell me about your work with Edward, and is that indicative of the work that Wild at Heart does?
Yeah, it does. So Edward has been involved for a couple of years with Wild at Heart, and it's a combination of making a space where Edward can come as an artist and meet peers and make friendships and collaborate musically with other people. He can participate in workshops that offer people access to, you know, well-established songwriters or musicians who will teach and train, or, you know, produce workshops that stimulate creative ideas and stimulate songwriting and so on. He can participate, and has done for years, working with professional mentors to develop songwriting skills, performance skills, recording and production and so on. And really to identify the goals that he wants to achieve individually and work with him to support those goals. And that's the principle of how we work with every person, to identify their journey. And it's the combination, for me, the power is the combination of working with each individual artist on their journey, but doing that within the context of a collective where people are not isolated, but they work with peers and see and celebrate other people's work with them.